Okay. Oh, there she is. Okay. All right, I think we have everyone. Lisa, are you there?
I'm here. Oh, you can't see me, can you? Hang on.
Great.
Sorry. Okay.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to be here. Finally.
Well, I think this is everyone. We noticed that it's not up on our meeting page on our website, so we'll get that corrected for the next one, and hopefully we'll get back on a normal quarterly schedule from here on. And I'll go ahead and just get us started, and I think we've got everybody on that's on our task force currently. As you know, Claudia resigned back in July of last year, and we brought that before the council just to make sure that they didn't want to replace one or do anything, add another member, go out again for applications, and they said no, they weren't interested in doing that right now. They said maybe possibly if we have another one resign or drop off. But anyhow, I'd like to get us going again. I felt it was important, at least we stay in touch. You know, this came back around and I knew that we're still going to be in this kind of COVID situation and by Zoom, but I think now everyone's so used to doing Zoom, except maybe Lynn. Lynn said this is her first, but everybody else, I think we've been doing this so long now, it's almost become an old hat. Hopefully we're starting to see a movement. I think at least vaccine wise, people are getting their vaccines, and that may help us start holding and reopening some of these city hall and some of our meetings and events. But at least we'll continue to do these by Zoom until we get the go ahead from the city or from the governor to start moving forward with public meetings. We are going to be doing a lot of planning coming up. So one of the things I did want to bring up, we've started our transportation parking analysis, our first system plan for the city. That's going to be starting up in the next couple months, and I think the first open house is actually scheduled for April, May time period. So late April, early May is when they're targeting that, and we're going to have those dates pretty soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. And so all of this is going to be coming, and we'll be posting it on the website, trying to get the word out. But that's going to be a big event. The city council has also decided to do joint work sessions with the design review board and the planning commission on a code audit. And so we have posted that request for qualifications, and we'll be looking into that and hopefully have somebody on board to start that also in early summer. So a lot of planning that's going to be going on. And so what we've done, to kind of keep you up to date on the short-term rental task force, we sent out the audit letters last month, and we've gotten, you'll see, I'm going to do a presentation here in a minute and start sharing my screen. But we've got some preliminary numbers in. Provisionally is about 70% have returned so far of the audit. And hopefully we'll get the kind of late notices out and try to get as many in as possible in the next couple of weeks. And then I would hope to have kind of the final audit numbers out and posted by the end of this month. And then that'll give us at least a second kind of data point to look at as we move forward. Any other questions or any thoughts before we jump into the agenda?
So Jeff, I'm not in the rental industry, and I don't know what those audit questions were and what data you're looking for in that audit. And if we're going to review that, maybe it would be good for us to see what that is beforehand.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do right now.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of touch base, but first 10 or 15 slides are pretty much kind of why we started this and get us back on track.
And is this a comparison from a previous audit?
Well, we did.
Are we comparing year versus year, or?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, Jim, we do a yearly audit. And so what we're going to be doing is kind of going through, and I'll show you a little bit about the last one. Because of COVID and the conditions around that during last year, we really didn't get data, good numbers back from last year. So this will show you the 2020 numbers as opposed to the 2018 numbers. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen with you. And let me know if you guys can see it.
Looks good.
Okay. All right. So the agenda today is just a kind of refresh, and then I'm going to go through kind of the mission and the scope again, just because, like Jim said, I think a lot of us haven't seen that in a while. Then I'm going to go through the latest audit data and give you a review of that and a little bit of comparison to 2018. Then I'll give you an update on the short-term rental rate increase that will be before the city council tonight, and talk about the zoning ordinance amendments and where that stands. And then we can bring back up our organizational issues about how we want to move forward. Do we want to have a chair and all of that, and how we'll handle meetings from here on, and then next steps. Like I said, we're going to be doing it through Zoom until further notice. Our mission statement was taken, the mayor pretty much took this from our comp plan and zoning. In order to maintain the residential character and livability of its neighborhoods and to prevent the adverse effects of the transient occupancy of dwelling units on residential neighborhoods, it is necessary to limit and regulate the transient occupancy of dwelling units by investigating the rental permitting violation impacts of the STR program in Cannon Beach. So that comes out of the comp plan and the zoning ordinance. Like I said, the areas and analysis that went before the city council, and they said, hey, this is kind of the basis we want to start with, are is Cannon Beach seeing an increase in short-term rental activity? If so, are they geographically concentrated? Are they related to intensity or duration of use? Are there other concerns? Is Cannon Beach seeing an increase in short-term rental influence complaints? If so, are they traffic or parking related? Are they noise or activity related? And if so, are they impacting other concerns? Are there current issues with short-term rental program? Do the current short-term rental meet parking requirements? What is the geographic zoning district and other program related breakout of the data? Are there code alignment concerns with other aspects of the code, such as fire, safety, parking? What are the residential neighborhood impacts of the short-term rental program, and what are the fiscal impacts of the short-term rental program? And so when they started this, and they gave us about a 4-year time schedule to do this, those were some of the things. And it came out of that earlier, about 2 years prior, they started some short-term rental ordinance revisions. And as you can see, all those things I just said are basically what these were. These were part of the staff report for those earlier ordinances. And so we invested in short-term rental helper at the time. Now it's changed names about 3 times, where I don't even know what the name of the operating Granicus, I think it is now.
Yeah, host compliant.
Host compliance Granicus. And yet what it is, it's just a monitoring system that we use in-house to monitor short-term rentals. What it does is it goes out on the internet and it scrapes the data off of the internet of all these listing services from Airbnb to VRBO and all those, and scrapes them, updates them pretty much in real time nowadays. And then we go through our code compliance officer, Katie, will start doing it when she gets an opportunity to, but it's usually the code compliance officer, and he goes
Cool.
through and checks that, and we kind of follow that information through that. We
So this
also-
is that's just a software that you guys have, and that's how you're tracking
It is, yeah, I think.
rentals?
It is, Lisa, yeah.
That's cool. I thought it was going to be a person, but it's actually software. Should have figured that out.
We do have a person, they complement each other. I mean, we get quite a few, people will ask us about places and we'll keep an eye on a place or monitor places. And I'll go through that here in a minute.
Okay, just question, yeah.
And then this was from that earlier ordinance revision back in 2019, where they set up the task force over a 4-year period to monitor and to kind of look at the data that's coming in and the impacts of the program. Then we also had changes back then for this kind of 14-day rule to change that a little bit. They denied that, they didn't go forward with that. But then we did go through with a couple other changes about adding the penalty language and then the management portion of it. That short-term rental ordinance for anyone, I'll kind of briefly walk through this in a minute, and I'll show you on the website where to find this stuff after we're done with this presentation. But you can find this under our website, under services, under the short-term rental program. You can also find our municipal code under the same tab, just it'll say municipal code, and it's Title 17, Chapter 77, short-term rentals, and that's where it's located if you ever need to refer to it for the details. The current numbers are 206 permits as of this month, 48 lifetime, 45 year, and 118 14-day permits. To kind of look at the latest over the last 5 years, this is what the program has looked like. As you can see, really hasn't changed too much over the past 5 years. We've seen it up and down or within about a 10 unit range from about 192, about 192 to say 202, 206, around that number. So it's a 10 or 15 unit change, goes up and down. They capped it, of course. The 5-year has been stopped, and so we're not issuing any more 5-year program. And so we will start seeing that top number starting to go down. The pink number, the middle number, the lifetime unlimited, that's slowly decreasing.
Hey, Jeff, I have a quick question.
Sure.
That 5-year permit, that was put in suspension. It's not gone.
Right, it's suspension. Yeah, suspension.
Okay.
And yeah, I probably shouldn't even have said capped. It's just stopped. It's held until you guys come back with the numbers and some thoughts on it. So this is a percentage showing you that really pretty much stayed the same. I always tell when somebody asks us about our program, I always say, well, it's about 50%, usually about 50% 14-day, then the rest are quarter in each other, in the lifetime and the other. And so as most of you know, other jurisdictions do not do the 14-day permit. We're the only ones that I know of. Maybe somebody else knows other. I'm going to show you where this map's located, or the new map, and so we can kind of look at that after this presentation. One of the things that Jim just brought up, and what I'm interested in, and what we want to think about as we move forward with the program is, where are we getting this data? What type of data we want to look at in analyzing this? Everything from, I use the census, I use American Community Survey, and I'll show you a couple ways I've used those. Short-term rental audit, we use that. We use our host compliance and the code complaints. We'll show you some numbers from those. Utilities are also another way that some jurisdictions look at those in use and data. Counties, assessors, GIS data, that's another way to track ownership. We also we'll look into that. And then our transportation system plan, we're going to be looking at a lot of parking analysis and transportation analysis that we should be able to gather over the next year. I know we've got new traffic counts in, and those will be utilized as well in some of this data. But they're doing we got extra funding for our transportation system plan to extend that into a pretty comprehensive parking study as well. So that's one of the, I think, bonuses of this timing for this. So this is from the earlier slideshow, the earlier presentation, and you can see this is still 2010 census data, but that's another thing that I think we will see here in the next few years, and be able to update this with a more, not only a more up-to-date look, but we can compare these. Like, I think it's always good to have a reference point back to the 2010, and we will get to see how is the 2020, because we get a lot of people saying, well, that's 2010 numbers. It's not that reflective. Well, we don't really know that until we see the newer data and the better data. So this is
2020 going to be kind of an anomaly? I mean, I don't think anything was normal in 2020. So to me, that might just be an asterisk. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, as far as housing unit data, I think that's really all we're utilizing the census for. And so I think that's going to be pretty accurate. And we will be able to draw quite a bit from that as comparison.
Cool. I didn't, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. As far as socially and culturally, it's really fluid right now. In fact, I would say that this is the busiest
winter
we've ever been in the building department and planning department in the city.
It's the busiest winter I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I know that the short-term rental houses on my street have been renting all winter where they never have in the past. So that's why, and that's just because of COVID. I think people are, they can work from home, work from wherever. And like my sister does this all the time. She comes down and stays for a week. That kind of stuff is going on. And that I don't think is the same as vacationing, but we can figure that out as we go.
Yeah, I think that's something I'm happy. That's what, after we get through these numbers, and hopefully we'll have some time to kind of discuss some of the topics.
Okay, I'll shut up.
No. Feel free to ask questions too. So this is like I said, from the last numbers, vacant housing versus occupied housing, then the broken down into the different types of housing by how the community, the census records that data. And you can see our short-term rental numbers. It's about 11% of that number is, 12 maybe tops right now. I would say we've had quite a bit of development lately. So I would say our short-term rental numbers are actually probably less than they were back in 2010. And this is the breakdown at that time. This was back with the 2018 data. But as you can see, of the 1,800, like I said, we have right around 200. So, 1 out of every 9 right now. And then I compared this, and these are still that same from the 2018 numbers. I hopefully will be able to update this as well this summer once we get the 2020 data. I'd like to update this with the current and see how we're changing, because this is one area I do think that we'll see some changes, at least across the region, and see how they're playing out. And this is this same slide. This is, as you can see, is the 2010 census data down there at the bottom.
Yeah.
This is the same thing, but with the 2017 American Community Survey estimates for those same things. So there is a little difference between these numbers, if you can kind of see. In other words,
wait.
see
So is that saying there were 319 long-term rentals in 2018 in Cannon Beach? Am I reading that right?
So what we're saying there is of the numbers, if you go back to this, so you can see how they play out. It's the bright green and the dark green are the seasonal and short-term rental numbers, okay?
Okay.
And so,
Oh, got it.
so that segment that's, if you look from the top to the bottom, you can see Manzanita, for instance, almost at 25% is, I mean, 75% of there is pretty much short-term kind of rental, whether it's short-term rental or seasonal
I see.
housing, okay? Whereas
I get it.
we're just over 50%. Now, if you look at that, and Manzanita has even grown more in those 7 years, according to the estimates from the ACS. So I'll be interested to see when the 2020 numbers come out, how that plays out. It's usually kind of somewhere in the middle there. So if you can see this, unfortunately that background's kind of showing it a little bit, but this was the 2018 data numbers, average reservations per unit per year, average nights, average length of stay, total number rented, total reservations. So, yeah, there it is with the background.
Huh.
And so that's broken down into different rental types from lifetime, 5-year, and 14-day. And so there was a range, and when I give you the updated at the end of this month, we'll compare the two. I'll also bring 2018 numbers, a comparison for 2020. But so far of this, our most recent audit, as you can see over on the right, that's the percentage of audit returns that we've had back. And so we're right around 65% right now of return data that I'm gonna be reviewing here. So by type, you can see 14-day, about 57%, and 23% lifetime, 20% 5-year. The percentage of total nights per type, you can see is around 47% of the nights stayed are by 14-day rentals, about 28% for lifetime, and 25% for 5-year. The total number of stays, so this is, each party, 36.5% 14-day, lifetime. You can see lifetime and 5-year, they're a larger proportion than what we said with nights, see. So, we're more stays, in other words, more parties going through on these 5 years and lifetime as opposed to the 14 days, what that means. And so if you look at the, from the audit data, nights per stay by the type, you can see 14 days are almost up to around 6 nights. 5-year unlimited is under 4, and with the lifetime, just under 4. And so if you look at it broken down into the quarterly, you can see, as you would expect, that summer months, Q3, and then even Q4, how many total nights are rented compared to those first 2 quarters is.
And I'll bet Q4 is higher than just because of where we were, right?
You're right, Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
From my point of view, yes, that's correct.
I totally agree.
Okay, thanks. And one other thing while we're there, aren't the 5-year and the lifetime, aren't those pretty much they have the same people that come and stay there every year, so it's kind of predictable? They don't get a lot of new business, or or
Well,
is
that's
that not
true.
right?
That would be true during the summer for sure.
Okay,
They tend to book a year ahead during the summer. But
that's
the
what I
rest
think.
of the year, you get some regular guests back, but it's more of a mix.
Okay, thank you.
And so that's the total nights per type, and this is the total stays per type. And so you can see pretty full Q3 and Q4, like you said. And then the nights per stay by quarter. And you can see really almost over a week there for the Q3 for a 14-day.
Yeah, we're always pushing for that.
And then the percentage of rental representation, that often you guys or someone asked me that. So our 4 major property owners, property management companies, this is about 60% are operated by those 4 major property management companies. Then we have what I call minor property management. So if somebody had at least two reps, or they were representing 2 properties or more, then that's the other 20%, and then just under 20% that are individually operated. The taxes, I have not got the latest numbers on these, and I also hopefully will have those by the end of the month. But you can see from 2012 to 2018, what percentage short-term rental is of the tax intake compared to motel, hotel. And so I'll get those numbers as well for 2019 and 2020, hopefully for the next time you see this presentation. So as far as complaints, this is the latest complaints up until this past week. And this is since the code enforcement officer started working, which was about when I came on board. So just about 2 years, just a little bit after I came on board. And so this is about 2 years worth of data. I broke it down into what I called internal complaints and external complaints. So either from the police department or the code official, or one of our departments have reported the complaint. And then external complaints are all citizen complaints, anonymous complaints, and those others that come in from everything that's not internal. And you can see there the majority, 2/3 come in from internal. Of that, when I broke it down into the internal, were short-term rental possible. So these were complaints that said, okay, well, somebody might be renting, or there's a parking problem or a noise problem, and it's coming from this short-term rental. Then the officer follows up on that, and of those, how many were confirmed as truly short-term rental driven, and then how many are still being monitored. And so the still being monitored are ones where we've had complaints, but we haven't been able to really kind of pin a violation on them yet. So that's what I have of the data. I'm going to break that down further, hopefully. And as this, develops, at least with the short-term rental task force, these are the kind of things we want to kind of isolate and say, hey, are there things that we're wanting to track more or better, or how we might look at that. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about, that's kind of my data, most up-to-date data. Like I said, once we have the complete data, which I hopefully we'll have in the next 2 weeks, then we will finalize that, and I'll get out the a better set of data to you. Next, I wanted to tell you, we've been asked by the city council, we came before them with some land use fee updates. We did building fee updates last year. This year we did land use fee updates. And with that, they asked us to look at the short-term rental. We compared it with numbers mainly from around the region, but also across some of the other areas in the state. And looked at their numbers and what they were charging and compared our numbers, our current numbers, and have come up with a increase for short-term rental. This is the initial license, annual fee, inspection and re-inspection fees from the other jurisdictions we looked at. And you can see our fees were well under pretty much every place. I think Sisters was the only one that's really at the low end. But every other place has really increased theirs. Deerheart, Seaside, even Manzanilla is re-looking at theirs as well too. But you can see from that, most of them have up their fees in the last 2 years. This is our current one with the current land use fees on the left, and then our increased fees on the right with the proposed for this evening for the short-term rental increases as well.
So it looks, Jeff, to me, if you can go back, that it looks to me like the short-term rental group is the one that's really getting hit with the heaviest hit here in increases.
Oh, there it is.
Well, okay, so this is from the current, but you remember we changed the land use fees a month ago. So no, actually, I can bring that up in a minute.
Oh, this is combining both of them?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we really increased our amendment appeals and doubled some of the others as well that were
Okay,
low.
yeah, no, I get it, I'm good. I did have a question on the one previous. You don't have the county factored in at all.
Yeah, we didn't have Clatsop County in there. I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so my question for you is, in most cities, when departments are going to raise fees, they show the justification based upon the workload. And I really have a hard time going from $75 to $500 and trying to understand 5 times the workload for an annual renewal fee. So I guess I have to ask the question that should have been asked at the city council level is, what's the substantiation for 5 times the work level from the prior year?
Yeah, I really don't think, Dwight, it's from the prior year as much as from the prior 10 years or 5 years. And so I can tell you definitely we have gotten an increase in workload. And this committee is also one of those things. It's an increase in the workload. But from our short-term rental compliance, so short-term rental host compliance system that we use, from our code officer that we employ, plus Katie and my time, we've increased quite a bit. And it hasn't been in 1 year, but it has been over at least 5-10 years. And
Yeah, I don't think our fees have changed in at least 10 years and probably more than that.
yeah. And
It's long overdue is the problem. So it looks very dramatic, the change, but the change is long overdue.
Well, the questions is your perspective of what's long overdue. So there's 2 ways to look at that. One is workload, and 2 is both the motels and the hotels, as well as the short-term rentals or other rentals. They produce taxes, And that's another set of revenue that comes into the city. And so, you know, and then the one thing that we asked 6 months ago was when we looked at violations, and I think your chart really was kind of telling on that, is the question of we as a group considering whether or not some of those family homes that are they causing the parking and some of the noise problems versus the short-term rentals? And we're still yet to look at that, but that has not been addressed yet either.
I don't think that these increases are going to have any kind of a chilling effect on whether or not someone decides to put their house in the short-term rental market. I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think that the fees are overdue, even though they bring in revenue. They're still going to continue. Revenue isn't going to drop from short-term rentals because we're raising our fees. I'd bet on it.
Well, and I'd ask the question though, and I respect what you're saying and I don't disagree, but you know, even though the rates are well overdue, it's kind of a shocker hit to some of the short-term rentals that don't probably get a lot of revenue. And again, I don't know them, you know, on a basis to basis, so to speak. But if you're a small rental and you're only getting a, you know, 6,000 to 7,000 a year, you know, that's a pretty big hit, and that could take them out of the pool. And if that's the intention, then we should talk about that. But that's my perception.
I agree with you, Bob.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that, you know, if you have thoughts on this or you want to discuss it, I would direct it at the city council, because this is before them, and it's you know, they'll be looking at it tonight.
Well, let me just follow up on that question, and then we can move on. At least my perspective. If the rates are set in stone, and I know, as Dwight just made a good point, you know, what's the real workload increase? All that being said, you know what the revenues are by rental, and have you looked at what the increase is as a percentage per house that is being rented? So in other words, back to my example, if somebody is only getting 6,000 a year in rental and you've just raised it to $500, that's a significant percentage increase for them. Is there a way to, you know, do it per revenue per home, or is that just getting crazy?
Well, we can look at that, and that's what this task force can do over the next coming year. You know, the next 3 years. We've got still 3 years left in our, and I'll tell you, just looking at the rates that they're posted on Airbnb and all the ones that we scrape, which we can look at, and we, you know, the $75 that we were charging a year is not much. You know, that's not even the average of a half of a night at most of these places. So
No kidding.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Yeah, I think it's a waste of our energy looking at you know, if this has been before the council, people have been able to sign up and speak on it before the council. If you didn't do it, well, it's too late now.
Well,
Well,
I see it a little
hold on. Wait. Hold on. I appreciate your perspective, but quote unquote, a waste of our time. I mean, the reality is that's why we're here. My impression was that's why we exist. That's a pretty strong statement to make when not everybody gets information the way they should. At least I believe even you missed a meeting because you didn't get the invite, you know, and it was an accident. So communication is key here. And I think our purpose is to challenge the establishment, so to speak. So I would question the statement.
Well, question away. I mean, that's fine. That's your prerogative. I'm just saying, I think that's a waste of our energies as a committee. I think we have a lot more important things to look at, but that's just my perspective on whether or not raising the fees for short-term rentals is, you know, should be proportioned out by how much money a short-term rental brings in per summer. I just, you know.
yeah, so let me first take it now while I'm still sharing the screen. So this is our website. If anyone hasn't been to our website, First thing to do is go to the website. Under agenda minutes, that's where you're going to find any kind of meeting that's coming up and how to get those materials. Like I said, we'll put our quarterly meetings on here as well. And if you click on this view details over under the view on the far right for any meeting, you should be able to click on that and it will give you all of your Zoom connections for that meeting.
Oh, cool.
And if you go to a previous meeting, let's just take one of the previous city council ones. If you go to that view details after the meeting's been held, you will see the live feed to the YouTube connection. So you can watch that meeting at any time. They're all saved. They're all on there. We still get questions for minutes and video or what audio or whatever. It's all available under a very easily searched meeting site that's on our website, and it's available 24/7.
That's cool.
The other thing that a lot of people don't know from this page is the GIS mapping. So if you have questions about any property, you can go to our GIS mapping and hit this interactive GIS mapping. And from that, it will take you to our map of our page. And over on the left is all of your different layers that you can look at, from zoning layers to different wetlands information, tsunami evacuation. You can look at the flood layers, and each one of these has a box and you can click on that. If I want to find out how steep the slope is, I click on that box for % of average slope, and it will tell me on my property what the average slope is on my property. If I want to find out more information about my property, I click on this identify map feature up here at the very top. You'll see identify map feature. If I click on that and then I choose my property, it will give you this over on the left. You'll see all of the information from zoning to tax lot information. And if you click on this history by location right here, it will give you any kind of land use that we have in hard copy information. So this is a way, if you're ever looking for our website information. And so the other thing I wanted to show you under our website page is we also have, like I said, under our homepage, if you go to services and you go to municipal code, that is also where you find our ordinances. So our zoning ordinance is under there. Just like I said, you can find any of the different zoning ordinances, from tree to short-term rental to any of those under that. Also under the home page, if you go to services, there's the code complaint form. So if anyone has a short-term rental complaint or any type of complaint, they click on that code complaint form and they can fill that out, and it will be inspected by our code enforcement officer.
Cool.
The other thing under the services page that you'll want to do is go over to the short-term rentals. Under the community development short-term rentals, you'll see a list of our current short-term rental list, the permit information, the audit forms. And then if you click on this short-term rental map, it will take you to a map of all of the short-term rentals in Cannon Beach. And you can click on that and find out information from our database on occupancy, who's the representative, the off-street parking, and what type of permit that is for that different unit within the city. So that's all the information that's out there, and that's really kind of what I wanted to share with everyone. And then the next step is what the perfect segue from the past discussion is organizational issues. So I think we opened it up before of, you know, do you guys want to elect a chair and what type of representation or committee you want to run here? And, you know, I would recommend you guys have a chair and then let them operate this. But I wanted to turn it over to you guys to discuss that.
Jeff, I'm not sure that we really, that this is the best time to bring on a chair. One, you're doing the informational participation in the meeting that's critical for what's going on here. And a chair is actually getting in the way in that case. Two, because we're running with Zoom, we don't have the personal interaction with each other, and eventually City Hall will open. And maybe that would be a better time to bring on a chair or can reconsider having a chair, where at least we're facing one another, we get to know one another, we have a better ability to communicate.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point.
I agree.
I don't even know most of you.
Yeah.
I know Jim and Lisa. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's been difficult even for my commissions like Planning Commission and Design Review Board. It's been an interesting time running with these Zoom meetings.
I mean, God bless Zoom because we do have communication, but at the same time, I'm not sure that creating a hierarchy that's different than what we have right now, it would be a meaningful move.
A second.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Okay, so on that front then, at least I'd like to get back to the discussion of the data. Is there any other kind of information that you guys are interested in or you want us to kind of follow up on, or you know, there's other more granular level that you want to see of something or when you're starting to look at this kind of information?
Well, I have a quick question to go back just a little bit, Jeff. Tonight, the city council's likely to approve, they've already set the fees and they're going to approve the change in fees tonight. When will they become effective?
So they can set that at any date they want. We've asked them to do it on July 1st.
Okay. And so there's no real recourse from our committees, our task force point of view to try and advise the city one way or another, city council one way or another on that. That decision is essentially made.
I can't say that because there hasn't been action taken. So there's always the ability for change. So,
Yeah.
So I had kind of along the same lines, I had that question because I watched the city council meeting and they asked us to come to our committee. And I wasn't quite clear why that came to our committee and what they were asking us to do. Did they want us to review this or come up with a recommendation for them? Or were they just wanted us to review it? I wasn't sure exactly what they wanted us to do.
My read on that, Jim, and I could be, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but my read is, well, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And why take it to them? Because after all, that, you know, it's letting the horse out of the barn sort of thing. Closing the door after the horse is gone. So, and then there was some thought, well, we do have this commission, and then they said, well, yeah, I guess we have to tell them about it.
Yeah, Jeff, wasn't there an opportunity for public comment at the city council level already? Every single meeting of the city council, there's an opportunity for public comment. So if you're not in favor of a certain way the council is leaning, you're free to speak, you're free to write a letter.
Lisa, there's no doubt about that. The problem is nobody was, you have to watch the meeting minutes and look at every agenda to see if it's going to affect you.
Yeah, you should be looking at the agenda.
Well, I haven't sat on a city council for 16 years. I have to tell you, it just doesn't work like that. And the problem that I see right now for all of us, it's not just, no matter which side of the fence you're on, is that the city council established a short-term rental task force.
It's what? I'm sorry.
They established us to look at policies and look at a whole slew of things, which they figured out at their last meeting, well, gee, you know, if we just do this without consulting them, it's like, why did we even create them? I guess that's what they're thinking. I would be thinking that.
And there was no notification to the people involved. So the homeowners didn't receive a notification saying that this was coming up to the council at all. They have
I
no,
just wonder if this is the right place to air this because
I
it's a
agree with you,
done
Lisa.
deal. So
yeah.
we should move on, and if you have concerns, you can zoom into
Well,
the city council
well,
meeting tonight.
And I think it's people's own responsibility to keep track of what's happening.
Yeah,
in the community. I mean, I've missed things that I've really cared about, and I blame myself because I had every access to that website. I could have looked at every single agenda, and if there was something dear to my heart, I could have spoken or written, and I missed things. And I think that is my responsibility.
I would just say that no, the horse hasn't left a barn yet. I'm from Kentucky, and I'm pretty good at knowing when horses leave barns. And I would just say that if you want to form a consensus, a letter from what support or not support from this committee, yes, you could still write them a letter. I work one office over from the person that would give that letter to them for their consideration. Doesn't mean that they will change the vote tonight, but at least it gives them an understanding that you guys wanted to have a say. Jim?
So given the protocols that are in place for public meetings, even if it came to a consensus, providing a letter doesn't fit the protocols currently for the meeting tonight.
That's right.
So it really puts us in a weird position of, one, I wasn't sure what they were asking us to do. It's on our agenda to look at the legislative update and the zoning ordinances. Do they want us to have a consensus or come up with an idea? So that's one thing. Whether you have access to the public meeting or not, I was curious what the council wanted us to do with this information. Is it just look at it, or did they want our input on it? And two, that leaves the question, if they want our input, how do we provide that when this meeting is happening so close to the meeting they're going to vote on that it doesn't follow the protocols to provide input to that meeting? Yeah, so it's a really weird position of what do they want us to do with this and how do they want us to give our feedback?
Well, I think that this is not, I put this on your agenda, right? That's the protocol. It didn't come from the city council to put this on your agenda. I put it on for your notification, or, like you guys said, the last two meetings I've asked, for this to, hey, you got a short-term rental task force, you might want to take this to them. And they did not want they didn't want us to do that. So, this is for your information. It's like you said, has the horse left the building?
Yes.
It hasn't actually left the building.
So then what I'm hearing, Jeff, is that the answer is they don't want our input and they don't need anything from us. So we're just looking at it.
that's right.
And if we're just looking at it, why do we exist? If we're a committee to kind of set direction.
So they do not feel that fees should go before commissions. I've worked in plenty of jurisdictions that don't feel fees are part of any advisory commissions. That is solely the council. A lot of time it's even in state ordinances often, or statutes. And so I understand that, but if you guys have any kind of concerns or thoughts, I, at least from the staffing perspective, want to get you the information that is pertinent to the short-term rentals, and that's what's pertinent to short-term rentals right now. So, and the same with the zoning ordinance. Zoning ordinance changes are on hold till June. There are a couple sections within the zoning changes that I want to at least kind of touch on real quick that are currently being considered. And so let me share my screen real quick on this. So the short-term rental, the zoning changes that have to do with kind of rentals, there's the bed and breakfast change where they are changing the conditional use to not run with the property. It would run with just the ownership of whoever, if the ownership changes for the bed and breakfast. And that's currently an amendment change. As far as short-term rentals, we've never allowed kind of a Airbnb type of rent out a room in our short-term rentals. And that's never really, it's stated, but it's not easily stated in our ordinance. So we've had to defend it a couple of times. And so I wanted to put it in there more succinctly. And that's why I put a portion of a dwelling unit so that we know that it's the entire unit that's being rented out. Then we've changed the occupancy with the fire suppression. Linda has pointed out quite appropriately that this does not grandfather in. And that's one of those other things that we bring up with the planning commission when it comes before them when it comes back before them in June.
Could I throw in the other
Sure.
question is, how does this affect those large family dwellings that are often, some of the worst set of folks as far as non-compliance with the codes of the city? And I'm just kind of wondering how we balance that out. And because
We take the extra money that we're gonna have from the new license fee and we hire a second code enforcement officer and we start cracking down on those people.
We're talking second homeowners and first homeowners?
Rentals, I'm not talking about,
Yeah, well, then
Homeowners.
you're not applying it fairly. So we're asking the rentals who are already paying fees and commissions and everything else, taxes to the city. And we're expecting them to operate and take on extra stuff that homeowners here are not being asked to do. However, when you look at the fire suppression that's required in this city, it hasn't come from rental units, not from short-term rental units. It's almost always been either second homes or primary residences that have had the house fires. And so, but we're laying this on the short-term rental homeowners and not on everybody equally. And that's a problem.
well, isn't the fire
to be
thing
discussed.
just like their little motel units? Isn't that the same?
So are
Is
some
that the same thing the motels require?
Well, so are most of our second home residences, or they're like.
No, that's their home. I mean, that's their
And-
second
and-
home. It's not, they're not renting it out. They're not making
they're
money
not
like a
renting it out.
motel.
Those people they're renting it out to their family who are not, that don't live at their house. They rent it
Yeah.
out to their friends.
Okay, then it's rental. You
So-
said they rent it out. That's not a second homeowner. That's a short-term rental.
I do agree with you, Lisa, but what I'm saying,
Okay,
there is this under the table market.
oh, yeah.
And that's what we just discussed at one of our prior meetings, that there's some of the complaints come from that under the table market. And I only brought up.
Well, we should figure out something to do about that because we all know of examples of that going on. And that isn't fair. I agree. That's not fair to let them just skate and then put on all the other people that are playing by the rules, these new rules. I agree. That is not fair.
So a couple points on that. So one thing is that, yes, under the current Oregon building code, Linda, yeah, anything that's over the 10 person is going to have a fire suppression sprinkler system. So this what you're referring to, I think, though, is this is retroactive because it doesn't have a grandfathering type clause. So that is
Correct.
another one of those specific things. But anything now, even the big homes along our seashores or whatever that are being built, almost every single one are of the size that they have to have a fire suppression sprinkler system.
And that's great. That's great. But we're not laying it on these other homes that are occupying more than 10 people on a weekend as the family comes down and uses their house, and they bring their friends, their family, their neighbors, and they've got kids laying on the floor in sleeping bags that are not vacation rentals.
I understand totally. I agree. But that once again, and I'm going to have to keep repeating this because I know I'm singing to the choir here, but unless we get the word out for people to complain about that, we have nothing we can, that's just, unfortunately, it just is, it's just another anecdote, and we can hear all that, and it doesn't really, there's nothing that we can do about it is what I'm trying to say. So
That's fair, Jeff. Thank you.
yeah, so I hope we're pointing people to that. That's why I showed that code complaint form, or call our police department and ask for the code officer, because we do want to know about these things. And so the other component of this that is also related, and which we're going to be really assessing over the next year, is the off-street parking.
Yes.
And so one of the other, and I've spoken with Linda about this as well, is that I do think what has happened historically, traditionally here, is a lot of our parking that we've allowed for not just short-term rental, but for any of the old cottages and the presidential's other areas, we've allowed our right-of-way to be used as parking for units. And that's not how it's written in our code. And our code even allows, which is what we're trying to correct here, even allows, we ask for, on any kind of plan review, whether you're getting an addition, a new home, whatever, converting, you have to show your off-street parking. And every residence has to have at least two. Then if you go to an accessory dwelling unit or short-term rental, you often have to have more. But that has to be shown by a 9 by 18, 9 foot by 18 foot parking spot. And so, and it has to be wholly within your property. And over the years, they've kind of allowed some that have not been wholly on the property to be utilized as off-street parking. And this is growing more and more concern. And not only on your plans, when you bring in a plan, you have to show it on your plan, but it does not have to be asphalt, concrete, pavers, gravel, whatever. It could just be shown on the plan. And that runs into trouble with lot coverage, because we have a lot coverage worksheet and calculation that calculates that area as part of the lot coverage. And so there's a conflict there. I'm trying to correct this by saying we need any off-street parking that's required off-street parking to be shown as gravel, asphalt, concrete, paver, or whatever. But it's going to change things, and so is this, being more enforcement of this is really can cause a problem. And so I've been trying to prepare the short-term rental working group and task force over the couple of years since I've been here, that these changes are going to happen over the next couple of years, and likely that's going to be part of the discussion that comes up this coming fall and winter, when we talk about scenarios of how we're going to deal with parking.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's a problem. So originally, Jeff, the ordinance allowed for the little cabins that had no lot to speak of, as long as they were allowed off-street parking, not off-street, but on-street parking for 2 spaces. were assumed, is how I think the language used to read, were assumed to be permitted. No more than 2, which limited a house to 6 renters, occupants. And so, but now we're going to change that and make those little cabins go away or pave over what little bit of yard they have?
No, I think what I think we'll see different options, but I think what will happen is that they'll have to pay probably an in lieu of fee. In other words, they're going to have to pay for those parking spaces yearly
Okay.
as part of their short-term rental licensing. So,
That's not unfair. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, you know, as long as that's how it goes in. Yeah.
right. And so then the one that really caused us to kind of table it, and we're going to wait kind of for the code audit and other things, COVID and everything else to settle down, was that there was a unit size limitation put in the zoning ordinance, and a number was thrown out there for 2,000 square feet. That was just a number, okay? But
Yeah.
it was a discussion to at least bring up unit size as part of the how we might limit home size going forward. And so we're going to bring them back up in the summer and start that discussion. We also had a discussion about building height limitations along the beach. And so both of those things will come up in the code audit, and also I believe back in before the Planning Commission before the end of this year. So I just wanted, those are the things that I wanted to at least bring before you guys, because I think they do impact you and at least get you to notice that.
Yeah, how do I get a copy of the slides you put up today, or do I already have them?
Yeah, so I'm going to post all of this and also send it your way. But like I said, I'm going to be updating a lot of the data points will be updated once I get the final numbers in by the end of this month. But until then, I'll give you my presentation that I just presented, and then give you reference to also where you might find some of the other stuff.
Okay, thank you.
So I have just a question, and that is, I don't live in Cannon Beach full time, but I've watched. I'm wondering, that big, I forget the color of it, green house that's being built across from the pig.
Ew.
Is that what I'm talking? You guys all know which.
Yes.
I have to ask.
It's purple.
Because when I saw that, I shook my head. Did that have any of the impetus to set the 2,000 square foot or lot coverage issues? Because I was stunned when I have to tell you, I was stunned when I saw.
The
Not only
2,000
is it
square
big,
foot was just a number that was thrown out. It could be 3,000. It's just the whole point of that whole thing was to stop gigantic single family dwellings from being built in Cannon Beach.
Single family.
These, you know, because they are single family dwellings. But that the way that building looks, that house you're talking about, that's because the design review committee doesn't review residential dwellings, just commercial dwellings. So I think that that's a change that has to happen too, is the design review committee should look at residential buildings as well, because can you imagine a street of those things? I mean.
Oh, I when I saw that, I said, I bet you I know some people that have to be just jumping up and down about this. And then the other thing I asked about is that building, and I know Jeff probably knows this, can be easily split in half so that they can make a rental out half of that. Now I'm not saying that's in the plans, but talking to the carpenter, I happened to find that out, because the way they built it, it has some advantages. And so I'm sitting there thinking, now this is not what we have in mind as far as the future of short-term rentals in Cannon Beach. So,
Right.
But that was just, I had to ask the question. If the,
I've already turned that guy down.
Oh, really?
Really?
Well, yeah,
Let's-
you must remember though that a lot of Cannon Beach is R2. And so a lot of Cannon Beach does have the ability to have the 2-unit homes or area lots. So
So I'm
anything-
waiting to see what they're gonna build in that little spot across the street from you now that they've.
Oh,
poured.
yeah. Yeah, I've been waiting.
Well, let me tell you, as a guy who works in the kitchen staring out my window that way every day, I'm tempted to put a mural on my window.
I forgot about that, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a friend who works in one of the retail stores downtown, and she says that customers come in from out of town and complain to her about that house. Why did they
Where's the
put that
house?
house there? And she says, I don't know. I mean, I'm just working here. I had nothing to do with it.
The
So
gut
it's
punch.
causing a lot of attention, negative attention, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard people, Lisa, on that exact thing say, that's the whole reason they want to see a unit size and design review. So just because of that house. And so
That does not surprise me.
I had one lady, get on to me that I allowed it. And I said, I don't allow it, the code allows it. And so anybody have any thoughts or anything else, next steps of what we want to talk about at the next one, or if there's any other things that you might want to look at? Also, just because this meeting comes to an end, like you said, you can always email me if you have other questions or other information that you're looking for.
Jeff, I appreciate the compilation you put together. I look forward to seeing what the remainder of the audit shows in relationship to the census.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see as well. And I'm going to be interested to also to see in kind of the tax numbers and the kind of the fiscal side of things as well.
And Jeff, did we ask previously about the tax funding being separated out by the different categories as well?
Yeah,
So we can see that comparison.
Yeah, I'll see what kind of granularity I can get on everything.
Thanks.
At our last meeting, we were talking about what did short-term rental people spend their money on when they're in town, and if we needed to quantify that.
Well, it's a little different now than what it's been in the past
That's true.
because of COVID. So it's really not a fair question right now. They're still trying to spend money in restaurants when they can and in the shops when they can. But they're really, most guests are, my guests, from what I'm getting feedback from, is they're just not going out.
Yeah.
They're getting to-go food. They'll stop in and see a shop if they need to buy something. They go to the grocery store and they go to the beach.
Yeah.
And
This year's not a good year.
hey, Lynn and Linda, I think that is a great topic that I would like to post for our next agenda, is to say, and to target maybe this time next year, us to do a survey of our short-term rental and other stays and work with the chamber on this and possibly look in with Travel Oregon, getting some funding, and to do a kind of what's our customer base and what are they doing and all that. But I think that'd be a fascinating study to see if there's differences across the different types of rentals and stay, just general general day trippers, and see what that looks like. Because that's something that I think also should inform short-term rentals and that market.
Oh, I agree. The day trippers, they're coming down, they might buy ice cream. Now they might get something to go on their way home to eat, but they're spending time at the beach or in the trails.
Right.
And they're parking at the end of all the streets if the parking's full downtown. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And I agree with Linda. We have seen a lot more takeout garbage at our rentals where they're going to restaurants and the real evidence of them going to the restaurants a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reviews say, hey, it's been great. We're spending a different time with our kids, and we're playing cards, or we're playing games, and we're doing puzzles, and it's real valuable family time in a different location than where their lockdown has been.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, if there's not anything else, I suppose we close the meeting and hopefully do it the next quarter, and I'll get some information to you guys over the next month or two.
Terrific. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
That'd be
All
good.
right.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you, Jim.
Bye-bye.